All right, what's going on, everybody? So instead of doing these very long threads and discussing my top five altcoins heading into next week that way, that usually ends up taking me an hour or so between reviewing previous weeks and then making the thread and then quoting the tweet and doing all that and then sending out the next top five for the next week. It takes me around an hour to do all that. So I figure that I can probably get out, a 15-minute video and do a review or a full-fledged watch list, like a new watch list, and do that much more effectively and probably get my point across in a smoother sort of fashion that way. So that's probably how we're going to do it. Going to transition away from having these lengthy threads and into implementing and utilizing my YouTube along with my Twitter influence. So yeah. But with that said, let's get right into it. Top five altcoins for the next week. Definitely Chiliz. So on a really high time frame, you can tell why this coin is probably shaping up a lot better than most coins, and why you should probably be paying attention to it. And these 200 daily moving averages do a really great job as far as a high time frame context goes. I'm actually already in Chili's and into this resistance level. I will be taking my full profit and or getting stop loss or stopped out on my adjusted stop loss in the event that we pull back. But you can definitely see on these lower time frames why Chili's is so interesting. I believe the trend here on a high time frame is something like, actually no, it's hourly 200s. Right, so something like hourly 200s has dictated the high time frame trend for quite some time now. So definitely a reclaim of those allows for us to come in and start to speculate. Hey, this is probably heading higher, and that was just yesterday that I took that trade, and it has pretty much did exactly what I thought it would do. So beautiful sort of setup. Exactly why we want to be looking to trade these high time frame, uptrending altcoins. 15-minute 200s is a nice base as to what to look to trade this off of for a local time frame. And then you can look to scale assumptions in that way, in either direction based off of whatever these 15-minute 200s are doing, right? If we're still holding them, or even if we're just still above them, there's always the chance that we go past my take profit, past that high time frame resistance, and we see the high time frame trend continue. Right? If we lose the 15-minute 200s, then you can probably assume we're going to come back and retest those hourly 200s. And from there, you can look to scale assumptions in either direction. Are we going to continue that high time frame trend, or are we going to break this down? So I go very in depth on into this idea in something like my video talking about how everything is a snowball. So if you don't really know how to use the information that I'm breaking down in this video for the coins that I'm gonna do, every single Friday for the rest of who knows how long, right? Hopefully into the next bull market. But if you don't know how to utilize this information, my other videos should probably help you with that. And even just the way of how I'm finding these altcoins to start with, all is stemmed off of that one video called "Here's My 4 Second Rule" or whatever the hell it's called. I don't actually know. But I'll leave some annotations, whatever, in the top right corner, so you guys can go watch those videos. But CHZ definitely something to watch. So that's first. Next, we actually have Litecoin. So why am I interested in Litecoin? The reason I'm interested in Litecoin is because relatively it is shaping up better than the rest of the market, or most of the market at least, right? It's not better than Chili's, but it is better than Bitcoin, believe it or not. So something like reclaiming these 200 daily moving averages, as well as breaking out of this range, 5 or 6 month long range for Litecoin, probably sets the stage for a really drastic kind of move higher. And if that happens, I'm not really seeing too much resistance until like this $94 region. So that in itself is like a 45% move, I want to say, right? So, I mean, yeah, 45% move just in that itself. So it's not necessarily that Litecoin is of interest to me right here today because we're trading at this range high. So, really, if this range high acts as a range high and pushes us back down into $49, who am I to like be shocked, right? If that happens. But it's more so if this happens, right? That squiggly line, then I would probably want to look to trade alt or Litecoin on a high time frame basis and look to swing it up to a 45% move into like $90 region. So as far as high time frame trends go, there isn't really one. The 200 daily moving averages are kind of what I want to pay attention to as far as very high time frame trends. So the fact that we're so close to them allows me to not have to speculate so much on these lower time frames, although still high time frame. But you do want to zoom in to see what's locally relevant. So maybe something like 15-minute 200s is decent. I truthfully don't think that anything is really going to help you too much. But it's more so just like confluence in the sense that if we do break out of this zone, you might be able to use something like these 15-minute 200s to base why is this going to be the ideal sort of breakout retest or whatever for the next push upwards on a higher time frame scale. So and then really if these 15-minute 200s break, then you're probably going to just look for that deeper push and the range to continue ranging, right? Range highs, range lows, range highs, range lows, range highs, range lows. So that's the way that I'm gonna be looking to trade Litecoin. The next that we have is dYdX. I'll be looking to trade dYdX. That is a setup that you're not allowed to see actually. Um, And pretty much, you can probably come to a conclusion of what the setup looks like based off of 4 hour 200s and market structure and gray boxes. And actually, I think it'd be more along the lines of like 3 hour 200s is a more accurate representation of the overall trend on high time frames. So, looking to swing trade that along these 3 hour 200s, along with that gray box, maybe hiding your stop below this market structure. I don't know. Could be psyops. Who knows, right? Using these higher time frame resistances as take profits and yeah, looking to swing trade this on a very, very high time frame. And in the meantime, your fear is never, oh shit, is this the bottom? Right? Is this the bottom? Is this the bottom? Is this the bottom? Right? Do I have to cancel my bids and buy now? Do I have to cancel my bids and buy now? That's never your fear, right? Your fear is I get my entry and then some, right? Meaning you get stopped out. We just keep bleeding. Why? Because we're already downtrending on this time frame. And the 15-minute 200s beautifully represent that idea, right? So if you want to look to trade the 15-minute 200s, and scale assumptions using them because of how beautifully they represent the trend, then you would never be fearful that the bottom is already in and that you need to cancel your bids and buy higher, like buy right now, right? You'd never be afraid of that unless the 15-minute 200s were reclaimed, right? In which case, you definitely want to look to cancel those bids, scale in here instead, hide your stop below the most recent low, and take the exact same concept of a setup and trade it that way, right? Rather than sitting on your hands, complacent, missing out on the trend, because you're still looking for that pullback or whatever, and then you would scale assumptions thereafter. So dYdX definitely a good coin to look to trade. Next, this is not something that is relatively strong, but it is more so that the chart itself. Wow, I could not get that out. The chart itself is so clean that it allows for a beautiful sort of I don't know, trade setup in the event that certain things happen. So this is still relatively weak, in comparison to the rest of the market. BNB is not holding up, anything crazy, but it is extremely clean of a downtrend, and you can see this even prior. So when you go to something like this 30-minute chart and you turn on those green and blue lines, the 200 moving averages, right? You can see how well they portray the trend, both for the uptrend prior, to that whole FTX debacle, and right now during the downtrend. So I would imagine that if we manage to flip this trend on BNB, 30-minute 200s, we reclaim structures, we probably reclaim, your horizontal supply zone along with that, whatever. Then this is probably going to see that bigger push upwards, and it's probably going to outperform the rest of the market in that sense. So definitely something I want to look to trade. So I have my eyes on it. Um, Next, I think the last one actually is SFP USDT. Why am I so interested in this? Truthfully, I'm not all too interested in this, but it does have a ton of opportunity for all the nerds sitting there and trading the 5 minute chart. You're not nerds. You probably outperform me, truthfully. Actually, no, most of you don't. Most of you drastically underperform me, but the ones that do outperform me drastically outperform me. So if you are that nerd sitting there watching the 5 minute chart, trading extremely high volatility and these crazy, you know, just super absurd percentage range rotations, meaning like you're staring at a 5 minute chart and within 30 minutes, you've already witnessed a 5% range in each direction. Something like that, right? If you're that person who sits down for 8 hours a day with their cup of coffee and stares at a blank white screen and watches price action go up and down all day, then this is probably something you want to look to trade. It's probably not something that I'm going to touch because No, I'm not that kind of trader. I'm not that guy, pal. But it is definitely interesting based off the high time frame context. We did just break out of a multi-month long range. We expanded extremely hard, and here we are using something like the 15-minute 200s, which were recently respected. They were totally disrespected, meaning they were irrelevant. Right, no one cared about the 15-minute 200s during any of that volatile, parabolic price action. But here we are respecting them again. And so this price action, I would say you would have had to adjust. You would have had to shift into using something um, even more sort of parabolic. So maybe something like the 5-minute 200s would have been basing the trend off of. And thereafter, you start to get chopped up, right? You assume downtrend, you get a little bit of downtrend. You assume a reclaim. So that's the extent of the downtrend, right? And you get a little bit of uptrend. Good job. And then you get chopped and you get chopped again. And then you get chopped again and whatever, right? So at that point, that's where you want to adjust. Somewhere in over here is where you want to shift into using maybe something more accurately representing whatever price action is doing without having to adjust and then readjust and then adjust and then readjust. Basically, without having to be chopped up to hell, right? So something like 15-minute 200s, you can actually look to trade those. And truthfully, if those were to break down, and then we could see something like maybe this zone breakdown finally. Maybe we form a range, maybe we don't. I don't know, right? But essentially, if these 15-minute 200s break down, I'll scale my assumptions to say, yeah, we're probably going to test this zone, and if we break that zone, we break this structure, now I'm allowed to look for a much deeper pullback, right? I'm allowed to look for like a negative 25% pullback at that point, right? And after already having assumed that negative 12% pullback, right? So I'm scaling a jump assumptions in both directions and trying to give myself a nice actionable way to approach this without having to be the person who's staring at the screen for 8 hours a day or whatever. And in that case, if we do break below that structure, we lose the 15-minute 200s, we break this demand zone, right? Then I can start to look for my quote unquote ideal swing long or whatever, which is just a buy of the previous range high along with something like 4 hour 200s, which do get pretty nicely respected on a historical basis. But obviously, when we're trading inside of a range, you probably don't want to be attributing a trend trader's system to a market or an asset that isn't trending. That's just stupid, right? But they are confluent with the range analysis. This is just a very high time frame support level. So if that happens, then I can look to bid, somewhere around 44 cents, and then look to trade the hopeful, still high time frame uptrend in that sense. And then for all you nerds sitting and staring at the 5-minute or the 15-minute, then you have a way of approaching that and then scaling assumptions thereafter as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm probably going to continue with this streak of doing market or doing video updates and getting the altcoin watch list out that way, just because it's so much easier for me. And then there wasn't a review this week because I didn't put out a list last week, but this is either the part where I would transition into review or maybe would start with a review. I don't actually know yet because I don't plan anything out really unless we're talking about trade setups. Um, but yeah, so we'll probably keep going with this structure moving forward, and I'll still tweet everything out so you get the notification that way if you want. But if you enjoyed this, then yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share with your grandmother, donate to me so I can afford some avocado toast because it's a bear market and whatever. And no, actually, if you really do want to support me and you want to go a step beyond, the best way to do that, truthfully, is to just sign up through my Bybit referral link and primarily trade on there. If I have helped you to a massive degree in any sort of way, shape, or form, and you feel like you need to give back to me in any sort of way, shape, or form, then definitely sign up. Sign up through my Bybit referral link. Are a ton of incentives to do so as well. Something like a up to a $30,000 deposit bonus based off how much you deposit. So it's proportional to how much you deposit. I know that there are obviously risks of insolvency and contagion and blah, 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 whatever. But I would hope that something like the video that I put out of how to utilize leverage to mitigate counterparty risk and the inherent risks of being involved with this space in general is beneficial to you in that sense as well, so that you're not depositing 100% of your net worth to Bybit or any other exchange, and I can still in good conscience shill my ref link to the exchange that I have used for the past 3 years, which I just so happen to be partnered with as of today. So really, really helps me a lot. So I'm eternally grateful for all of you watching these videos and giving me, my clout on Twitter. Gives me some dopamine. Definitely grateful regardless. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Much love and take it easy.